Hello folks, welcome to the Keep Productive YouTube channel. It is Francesco here. Now in today's video, I'm doing a special live stream that will help you to settle into working from home. Now I've put together seven tips and advice that I think might be helpful for you guys out there that may be working from home due to obvious conditions right now. And that may be struggling with it or getting ready for the longer term. So these are usually tips that are going to be great for individuals, employees, and maybe even managers as well. But I have got a specific managerial section near the end, which might help those who have a group of a small team or a large team that they're in control of to help best navigate the situation. So this is going to be about 15 minutes. And during this, feel free to leave any messages in the live chat that's here on YouTube. And we'll answer those afterwards. And there'll be timestamp below for those who couldn't quite make the live stream. But a big thank you for coming along today. And hopefully I can solve some of your maybe remote working woes that you may be having. So before we begin, a little introduction to myself. If you're new and you're coming in from other sources, my name is Francesco. I'm the host of Keep Productive. We do tool guides on here, routines, sort of tutorials, bring on guests, and we also do deep dives. So I wanted to let you know my email, which is in the corner of every single slide today, francesco@keepproductive.com. Obviously, it's a totally uncertain time for a lot of people. And naturally, feel free to email me if you need any help with anything. Specifically next week, I'm going to try and dedicate some time for those maybe like UK or US businesses that are physically based and that may be looking to help create a few YouTube videos and they may be totally stuck on the strategy. So feel free to email me. That's in the bottom right-hand corner. So a little bit more about Keep Productive. If you're new, then it's a channel that helps you to find the right tool for you. So as you can imagine, that's our sort of mission overall. So as I said, it's really scary times at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty. And of course, with uncertainty comes reassurance. Hopefully a lot of people are producing these sort of talks to help those who are unsure. And there is a big sort of uncertainty around people working remotely because they don't know, well, one, how long it's going to be. I know, especially here in the UK, people have been told to work from home, and also how to do that effectively so that they don't merge the lines between, life and work. It can be pretty stressful. So I wanted to point you towards a video here on YouTube that I found particularly helpful, and I think you'll find particularly helpful. It's on Matt D. Avella's channel. It's called How to Deal with Uncertainty, and I think he wraps it up really well. So please do check that one out. I do recommend it. So obviously you may be watching this because you've been told to work from home, or you are a team owner or owner of a company who have now moved their entire business remote and maybe looking for ways to do best practice on that. So this is really going to try and touch on, I think, 7 fundamentals. Hopefully I've covered the main points, but if you do have any queries, of course, naturally leave them in the comments here on YouTube. So the agenda, as I said, we're going to cover the 7 tips and advice points. And what I've done is I've broken it down into sort of why and action. So you can go away with some, I guess, tangible takeaways from each of the sort of categories that we cover. As I said, manager recommendations, and then we'll roll into a Q&A. So it'll probably be about half an hour in total, but if there is more Q&A, naturally we will extend to help best we can. So the first topic, the first sort of tip that I want to talk about is balance. Now, of course, when you sort of got home, you're balancing both work and life. And I can't imagine how difficult it might be for someone that is totally new to this whole remote working stuff, and it may have kids. And, I obviously from the background, I'm not quite there yet. But as you can imagine, I think that would be really hard. So it's also about balance as well. If you're an individual and you've never worked from home before, it's total uncertainty, but it's also pretty stressful because you might not be able to switch off. So you're probably wondering why. Why is balance hard? So at home, obviously work and life can blend together. You may forget about the time when you're at home. You don't have those natural cues like commuting somewhere that sort of give you time to separate. You may on the commute read your book or something like that, listen to a podcast, chat to a friend on the phone. And there's that natural sort of segue to working during the day. So you don't have them when you're at home because you wake up and you are meters away from your laptop necessarily. So you could start your day early and end it late, and that can be dangerous for a lot of reasons. And it's a way to sort of, hopefully I can give you some recommendations to keep away from that, because I've worked from home for a while now, and I definitely found that at the start, at least, it's pretty stressful to sort of break away from those two. It's also important for your sanity and mind, because once you introduce these ways to separate both of them, you'll feel a lot better. You'll appreciate the sort of relaxation time that you have much more and more as you learn about it every single day. I always try and talk about that James Clear method, the 1% rule he has, where you can improve stuff day to day, not necessarily overnight. That's my biggest recommendation to you all. It's always about improving slowly. And of course, the reasons why you would look for balance is to improve your output, because you as an individual, if you're overworked, your productivity is going to be not as good. Maybe you'll have a really productive Monday if you overworked and you didn't follow the sort of breakdown rules. And naturally, near the end of Friday, it sort of goes completely wrong because you're so burnt out. So it's about managing that sort of burnout. So here are a few actions about that. So the first one I've probably broken just by being on this live stream, but we're sort of in a transition period. Room allocation. So sometimes, going in different rooms of your house is a really nice way to break up working from home. I like going in the kitchen because it's a lot brighter than this bedroom. So that helps me to relax and focus more. I always tend to do that in the afternoons if I'm working from home. And I'll use this most during the day. But room allocation can also be a negative. For example, I've tried not to use the sitting room as much because naturally there's an association with me relaxing in there. And sometimes that helps with the switch off. Association can be a negative in this case. And also the same with the bedroom. If you're in the bedroom, you may not be able to switch off as well at night because you've done 3 or 4 hours in the bedroom of doing work, and that could be pretty stressful. So room allocation is really important. So maybe stick to 2 rooms or dedicate times that you would go in those certain rooms. And if you do work better on the sofa, then keep active around the house. Moving around the house is quite a nice way of doing it. And it's something you don't get to do in an office a lot of the time anyway, at least. From my own experiences, you stuck to an area of a desk you have and you don't move from there. So overtime and pressure. So obviously you can naturally be pushed by your manager to work overtime and pressure there. So what I would do is do your best to communicate well with your manager, be open with them, explaining your sort of balance, what times you're going to be switching off, that you will be turning off your notifications at a certain time, and that will help you to draw the line on when your work stops. And that sort of leads me on to the final one, is be as transparent as possible. If you have any tools that you may use like Slack, Twist, or Microsoft Teams, be transparent with people, and naturally that will help to improve the balance. And make sure that you've defined those times as well. So moving on to number 2, which is a very common one. I particularly struggled with this one maybe about 1.5 years ago, roughly, and it's procrastination. That's just something that naturally comes when you work. But in an office, you're getting someone over your shoulder. So you're, I would say, less likely to procrastinate because obviously you do have that notion that people are going to be around you. Now, of course, you're not going to have that BD manager. I don't know whether I spelled that right. BD manager sort of looking over you. And naturally, that's one of the issues with it. But you have to be aware it's also a natural human habit. People do this and have been doing it for many years because they are not focusing on one specific thing. And naturally, it also comes with being overloaded and stressed. If you are feeling very anxious at the moment for a particular reason, then of course, you're going to be a little bit stressed and you'll be more willing to procrastinate, especially on the news right now. That can be really daunting, and I guess an opportunity for you to check every 5 minutes. That is a form of procrastination. So some actions to think about around that. Consider a tool. There are some tools, for example, like Freedom, which is a great blocker for websites that blocks specific websites and allows you to dedicate specific time to, for example, you could be like, okay, I'm only going to spend 5 minutes on social media today through my browser. To consider actually doing something like that, installing those tools. There's also one for your phone. It's not one that blocks anything. There are specific ones on Android that do that quite well, actually lock you out of your phone in some situations. But there is on iOS screen time, which helps you to reduce the amount of times. It gives you notifications when you've used a certain app for too long of a period. But also there's Forest. Forest is a good one for like building virtual forests. And each time you do a certain streak, it helps you to build this mini forest. And it's a really rewarding way to actually block any procrastination out, because you can pick up your phone 4-5 times an hour and it can be pretty tempting. The other thing is plan procrastination. So obviously if you're working from home, you can plan those times in. For example, I'm going to not do anything for 1 to 2 hours. I think one of the typical things that remote workers do is work through lunch, because they may have done that in the office, but that's not necessarily the best habit to go by. If you're working from home, naturally now you probably are definitely not going to be able to leave the house. You may actually want to cook a nice meal, a bit of a different meal, or go into the garden if you have one. But as you can imagine, planned procrastination is important. So time those. Whenever I go and get a cup of tea, which I need to drink, it's a way of planned procrastination, because I can have a chat with my wife, maybe quickly check on some notifications on my phone, but it's a way of just batching all of those procrastinations all at once. So it says, don't pressure yourself. So obviously this moment in history is not exactly the most easy time. There's stuff on all of our minds at the moment about family members, or the way that it will affect our work, or pressures from work. And I would try your best to not let this situation pressure yourself. And it comes into play with procrastination too. If you do procrastinate, don't beat yourself up about it. It's a natural act. And as I said about James Clear's method, 1%, being 1% better every day can help. I started this week, at least with my wife, literally checking the news and apps pretty much. I must have been on my phone 4 or 5 hours a day. And we said each day that we'd try and get at least a little bit better, sort of unplanned. Like we said, okay, we're going to have a 4:30 check-in every day. And now it's become a lot easier to sort of manage. Sometimes that sort of whirlwind always happens, but try to consider that as a form of procrastination right now. So number 3 is schedules. When you're working from home, your schedule is pretty much yours. And that can be good. It also may be a bad thing, because some people aren't ready to take on their own schedule, because it's very daunting. You've had a schedule built for yourself, whether it's meetings you've already had or things like that. And you may already have some meetings planned for you, and naturally that's sort of happening. So obviously your day routine is yours, and you want a clarity in uncertainty, and you may want to also weave in some good habits. So the reason why a schedule, especially now, is important with remote work is it will help to cement a successful focus, a mindset around this period of time, because you're basically planning your day as best you can with the things that you can control. The chances are of your success and progress through the situation, the better. And of course, that's not the case for absolutely everyone. It may have damaged a lot of your routine, but I think still the good habit implementation is still very important. So a few ways that you can build a really successful schedule is calendar blocking. If you have a calendar application, utilizing the way that you can drag an event over a certain time period is a good way to do that. There are some great apps like Google Calendar. I personally use Woven. There's apps actually like Sunsama and Focuster, which allow you to do calendar blocking to a bit more of an advanced level. But that concept can help you stick to some sort of plan. And one thing I always tried to push people towards, something I actually need to do myself more of, is to color your calendar. For example, you can color your calendar with blue, which may be work, and green, which may be relaxation. So for example, you can colorize your calendar with, like morning bit of meetings, and then, for example, some fitness or training that might help. So calendar blocking, really successful technique. We've got a video here on Keep Productive about it, actually. Just type it in on the search and Keep Productive after it, and I'm sure you'll be able to find it. The other thing is writing out on paper, just having that paper around to actually be a bit more clearer. And sometimes it helps to take you away from the news and the computer. And you may want to even just pin it up on a wall, something you probably wouldn't have done when you were in an office, because it may have been laughed at by other employees because you may be really organized already. And that's normally the situation. The other thing as well is to lower your expectations. When you start remote working and you build a schedule, start with a skeleton. A skeleton will help you to then actually build on it later, and the body of it later, and it will help to improve it over time. So don't necessarily go in with the idea of, I'm going to do 100 squats by this time, 200 meetings by this time, you know what I mean? Don't over expectations, because it will really not help the success of your schedule. Number 4, and it's pretty, I don't know whether it's an obvious one. Sometimes clutter can be really disruptive when you've got a desk, or maybe you have dedicated a small area in your house. It could have been on top of a filing cabinet, or it could have been on top of like a little sort of stand that you have in the kitchen. A lot of people are making makeshift workspaces, and at the moment that's natural because, of course, you're not going to have an area where you specifically work from home. So clutter is a natural thing, and can easily happen as well, because we naturally just put stuff on our desk. I've got a cup of tea here, book here, some wires coming out. So clutter can happen just without you even thinking. And also, you weren't expecting to work from home. So it's not exactly like you've been prepared for it and sort of sat down and gone, I'm going to make a beautiful desk station, like many of these YouTube videos have. And you're probably like, I've just been thrown in the deep end. And also the stress of the situation, you are bound to be not following your normal routine, because it's a lot to take in at the moment. So naturally, you've probably just chucked a lot of stuff everywhere. So a few tips that can help. Obviously, clearing your workspace is really important. Obviously, I think if you have a desk or you have an area that is yours, name it and then clear it up. Clean it up as best you can. Take anything that's really unintentional on that away. Also, clean it. Obviously, cleaning your house is important right now, especially because you're touching your keyboard maybe hundreds of thousands of times a day, and germs can spread. So what I've been doing is every day at least, or twice a day, is just getting a or anti-back wipe and just clearing the desk. And if you take your computer away, make sure you clean your computer around, because the same applies there. So that's something that we've been doing around the house to keep things clean, both hygienically and clutterly. Clutterly? Don't know if that's a word. And as I said, minimize what's there, make sure that there's as little as possible on the desk. And also protect your zone, because you may be working from home for the foreseeable future, and protecting your area is important. So saying this is my desk area now can actually really help, because then you can dedicate an area. And if you have that luxury, protect it, because then it will help the other person to protect their own area if you're working at home with a wife, a friend, or a sister or a brother, whatever. So number 5, water cooler. When you go remote, it can be very isolating, and naturally with this situation, it is more isolating than ever. So there's a concept called water cooler, where you potentially set up a group that can help you to improve your social communication. Now, as I said, you'll have reduced social contact during this time. You may be a very social person. I know that when I went from working in an office, I was actually someone that really embraced it. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. And going to then something that was just me, I was sort of like, holy crap, it's not nice. And it can be a bit of a shock to the system. And this has happened in the same sort of light, because you're going from maybe 20 people in your office to 0. And you might not be able to naturally go outside. So, something like this could be important. Water coolers could be important. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You could have a Slack channel. And some teams allow this, some people don't, is to actually set up a Slack channel that is based on a water cooler. It can be anything, starting conversations in there, ones that can take you away from work and ones that can really distract you. And you can plan time to do that. This could be part of your planned procrastination, but it really opens up the opportunity for you to chat with your employees, at least in text format, like you would before. So you can start Slack channels like that. You could send songs to each other. You could send videos to each other. You could talk about topics that are happening, but it's a way for you to, maybe not topics that are happening right now, or ways for you to distract yourself at least, or keep updated. So it's sort of like a social room. Also planned Zoom time. So a lot of people, when they, go and work remotely, can plan in the regular meetings, but then not plan in the social time. So actually having dedicated social time could be a great way to, relax, grab a cup of tea and coffee and relax and talk to someone, because that could be a nice catch up. I'm looking to hopefully catch up with a few people in the productivity app space, at least, just based on this time. Nothing intentional about it, maybe 15-minute catch up whilst they're working, or not whilst they're working, but whilst they're working from home. Number 6, toolkits. So obviously toolkits are really important, and you going from a office situation to a remote situation can change your toolkit. The main reasons why is because it may not be up to standard. Naturally, when you're moving from a situation that doesn't demand physical interaction to like a remote situation, you may actually need a tool that reacts differently. For example, if you're someone that regularly comments on videos and you and your team do that in person, you have a breakdown or a meeting, you sit next to each other's computer and you go, that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong. And you have a project manager, or you don't have a project manager that doesn't do that, then you probably need to consider investing in one that has commenting abilities that help you to go granular. And also, it will, it acts as if you're in the office with this as well. So, these tools need to help you to replicate the office without being too intrusive in your own personal life. As you can imagine, still that sort of, if you have 9 to 5 sort of rolling. And also they might not be scaling to your needs. It might be a smaller project manager or tool that's unable to sort of push past the boundaries. So a few actions. If you're a manager, you may have the opportunity to look at your workflow, your whole company's workflow, and see whether the tools are an issue. The other thing as well is that some employees may actually go, this tool's not actually working for us right now. We have not found it suitable for working remotely. They may bring it up and may point you to another one, or you may point them towards another one. The other thing as well is consider asynchronous communication. This is something that companies like Doist and Basecamp promote. The concept is very simple. Instead of necessarily real-time chatter and being around your laptop all the time, it's respecting that you could be in other situations as well. You could be needing to nip to the shops at a specific time. You may be feeding your dog. There's a lot of stuff that comes up at home, and naturally respecting people's time out is really important. And when you're at home as well, you can also get, this is a totally side note, you can also get distracted by doing a lot of washing, cleaning, and that can also be very distracting, but that's just something else. Now, number 7, I should have put this first. Of course, health is the most important thing. But what I mean by that is fitness. Fitness is obviously something that from home is something you don't necessarily think about, because you may already have blended it into your commute. You may have maybe doing a walk or a morning workout, and you won't be able to go to the gym or etc. So actually making sure you embed that will be very helpful. So obviously health matters, and happy people are more productive. So happier, healthier people can do more in their day. So making sure you keep some form of routine. And of course, we need it right now. I think the blood rushing to your head can be a helpful way to distract yourself. I've recently been skipping outside just in the garden, and I've loved it. Like I always come in with a bit more of a cheery smile on my face. So some actions. If you're a manager, I missed out resources on that, misspelling. Allow time for home workouts if you're a manager. This can be a good way for you to give some time back to your employees. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean saying, okay, the commute time is your workout. It's actually giving and dedicating time. So you say, all right, I want everyone to do 15 minutes workout, not forcibly, but you're allowed to do 15 minutes, and you can be away from the PC as long as you message in this Slack channel to say, off to do a workout, and let everyone know what the workout is. You can also, as a manager, share useful resources. And of course, reduce expectations. When people are focusing on other stuff at this time, I keep reiterating this, but when they're focusing on other stuff, their productivity might not be fine-tuned. And of course, that's very important. So managerial advice. Now we've finished those top 7 tips. So if you have any questions, guys, if you're in the comments or chat, feel free to start popping them in there, because I'll open it up. And if there is any, I'll answer them. If there's not, we'll wrap things up. But managerial advice, if you're a manager, remember commute time is not work time. Just because they now have 20, 30 minutes back, it doesn't mean that you can steal it again from them. Try and give them that time. Well, give them that time, because it's their time, and they can actually use it however they want. Share useful resources. This is incredibly important for HR departments right now. If you've got access to well-being tools, or you are someone who can provide useful videos, resources, guides, courses that are free, or you want to buy the whole company a certain course, then that's a great way to do it. Also, remove any goal tracking or time tracking. This is something that some employers want to do. I think I read something about an app the other day. I think it was on one of the Basecamp founders' Twitter, about an app that tracks and takes a photo of every 5 seconds or something of an employee's laptop and what they're on whilst they're working remotely. And that's not the right way to do it. Removing any goal and time tracking gives your employees a trust to do what they need. And it naturally is going to be a bit of a transition period, at least. As I said, time tracking aren't vital, but they can be beneficial if you want to log certain time you have with clients and projects, naturally. So it's really dependent, as long as you're not using it as an aggressive tool. Sync chat rules shouldn't be used. Well, they can be used, really dependent, but naturally consider asynchronous. And also promote deep work concepts. There's a book by Cal Newport called Deep Work, which helps to, doesn't necessarily introduce meetings as the focus for the day. It helps you to plan these sort of 3-4 hour blocks to really get work done. So promote deep work. And allow preparation time. You know, once you're at home, you know, it's not going to be the same as the office. There's going to have things sort of fires to put out during the day, not real fires, but you know, things that aren't necessarily popping up. And also, don't insist on meetings. Try and reduce the amount of meetings you have. Is it really needed to have a meeting? Ask yourself that every single time, and apply the same rules to you as well. So you know, try to be an advocate for remote work whilst being a good manager. Okay, folks, so that was the bulk of the feature. So feel free to leave some questions. So I don't think I actually see any questions off the bat. I'm just going to say hello to a few people. Hello, Gabrielle from Houston. Welcome back. Martin from Spain. Azan from Oman. Martin says, first week working from home. Hope your tips help. Hopefully they did. Elise is from London. Greg says, great job, Francesco. Wishing you all the best. I wish everyone here the best today. A lot of UKers, Liverpool, North Wales, Gavin, John, Guido from the Netherlands, Greg from Pontevedra, Pontevedra, Florida, Yuki from Japan, welcome, Sai from India, also Cameron from Oklahoma, and also Damien Sved, especially right now when people have to work from home. And Jack is my friend from university. Hello, Jack. Baby's room looking good, he says. Yeah, it's working, coming on. I'll call you on Sunday. I just spoke to Jamie at lunch, so we'll chat then if you're still here, Jack. So thanks for doing this, Francesco. It's my first time teleworking at home, although sometimes I do once in a while at a hotel. Yeah, of course, it's like a totally new situation. Joshua from Mexico, tacos. Tracy says hi. Hi, Tracy. Agatha, NYC, hope things are well. And Oklahoma again. Brigitte says from Brazil, and also PJ from Florida, the villages apparently. And also Jonathan from Dominican Republic. Thank you all for tuning in today. I really hope this was helpful. I don't see any questions, but a big thank you for tuning in today. Really stressful time, but something that we can all help. So thank you very much. Feel free to leave your recommendations below of remote working, and naturally help as many people as you can during this situation. Cheers, everyone, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you very much. I'll talk to you all very soon. Cheers, everyone. Bye.